Hello and welcome to today's episode. My name is Carol Mushota, a transformational speaker, writer, blogger, and movable optimist, and I'm here to help you become the best version of yourself in your personal life as well as your business. Today we are going to look at the topic forgiveness. The thing with forgiveness is that it's not always an easy topic to talk about in every angle, and you have to start asking yourself to say, what makes this topic so hard? Why is it that we find ourselves in a situation where we think we have forgiven, but we actually haven't? Forgiveness is so hard because it requires you to be bold. It requires you to step out of your, comfortability. It requires you to be the bigger person. And it requires you to also begin the journey of forgiving yourself first before you can forgive another person. Because you see, forgiveness is not always about them. Forgiveness is first about you. Why are you in that emotional state? Why are you, feeling like, the situation or the person does not deserve that forgiveness? Forgiveness comes from a place where, we've set these standards and we've set these levels of expectations. So when those expectations have not been met, we then come from a place of either betrayal, or we come from a place of, disappointment, or we come from a place of where, you sort of feel like you've had enough, and you're in a place where you're thinking, I don't deserve this. But then again, who deserves it? Who deserves unforgiveness? Who deserves betrayal? Who deserves coming from a place of vulnerability? Because you see, unforgiveness only comes in when you start feeling like the other party has not met what you had mutually agreed upon. Because the things of expectations can either be spoken of, or they can just be thought of. They can just be things that, it's expected, the guy code, the girl code, the family code, the friendship code. It's all those things that when those aspects of that sort of relationship has been broken, you then start putting yourself in a place where, things are not so rosy, and, you're hurting, and you're trying to think to yourself, where do I go from here? Because, my heart has really been put in a place where I never wanted it to be in. But what you need to know is that it's not always about even just, whatever it is that the person has done. You have to understand, is it a place of wickedness or a place of weakness? Sometimes people do things because they're coming from a place of weakness. They don't know how best to express a certain element of whatever it is that's happening in their life. It then becomes a reflection on your life. So when somebody does something, it's more or less them coming from a place of insecurity. Of course, we can't run away from the fact that just some people who are plain evil, like that, they have an agenda and they say, this is what I want to achieve. I want to make this person feel bad. But even in that coming from a place of, wickedness, it still stems from a place of insecurity. It still stems from a place of where maybe information has been misconstrued, and you have to be the bigger person and start thinking and asking yourself, what role did I play in this? What lesson can I learn from this? The book of life tells us this, and it tells us that all things work out for the good of those who love him. And in this place, we're talking about divinity, we're talking about God, we're talking about something that is higher. When you take yourself out from a situation and you start looking at it from like an aerial view, and you start asking yourself, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this place of disappointment, from this place of unforgiveness? Because if you start thinking that this person or this situation does not deserve forgiveness, you're going to be constricted, and whether you like it or not, when you start thinking about health factors, even if you go to these doctors, you go to these medical places and you start asking them, where do some of these diseases or some of these emotional, displacements come from? They come from the fact that people have got unresolved issues, and then it leads to stress, it leads to diabetes, it leads to skin problems, it leads to fatigue, it leads to mental fatigue. It comes from a place where people are physically deteriorated, and they start to feel much older than they are. The free radicals in their body start making them, become, the immune system is down. half the time it's not so much that actual disease is killing somebody. It's a result stemming from unforgiveness. You find things like your kidneys, your livers, you've got migraines. All these things are not working because everything that you do coming from a place of heaviness begins to constrict you. It's why you come and find people that are very angry, they start to take the form of anger. The same way people that are happy start to take the form of happiness. There's a certain energy that they ooze out. There's a certain energy that they move with. Whether it's good or bad, what energy are you possessing? Because you see, forgiveness is not a one-day thing. We're not saying don't feel the emotions. We're not saying don't cry. We're not saying don't get angry. We're not saying don't get upset. But what is it that you can do on a daily basis to understand the situation that you're in? You need to understand everything that surrounds that place of unforgiveness, because forgiveness is something that you should do whether you feel like it or not, because it's about you being a bigger person. It's not an emotional place. It's not a place where you start thinking, oh my goodness, what are people going to think of me? No, there's a timeline. I'm supposed to forgive after like 5 months. I'm supposed to forgive after like 5 days. For every problem, there's a certain level of unforgiveness. No, it doesn't work like that. Unforgiveness is usually the key to unproductiveness. You know why? Because your energy is being channeled into this thing where you just feel like it's about you and people have hurt you and you are complaining and you're in a space where you're like, I don't deserve this. I'm this, I'm that. What about, people and situations that you have been forgiven of? Have you thought about the journey where you've come from? Have you thought about there's so many times that people have overlooked some of the things that you have done that you are now failing to, let go of? Have you thought about maybe in that moment that the person said something, did something, shared something, maybe they were in a place of insecurity. Maybe they were coming from a place where they didn't even understand what the consequences would be. You need to get to a place where the forgiving part of it is non-negotiable. Why? Because the minute you do that, you release some sort of like peace. And it's not to say that it's a perfect peace, but it's a peace that makes you understand the situation more. It gives you a place for you to understand what is the lesson. Forgiveness is something that shouldn't be carried to the next stage. It has to be there and then. It has to come from a place where you can be a shining example to somebody. Because you see, the minute you place a release on someone or a situation, it then becomes their job. It then becomes that situation's reflection, that person's introspection, intro on the inside. They start thinking to say, okay, so Carol forgave me. Really? I mean, even I know that maybe I would not have done it in that manner or whatever it is. But in that moment, whenever you release that forgiveness, it starts to open up doors of where you're being productive. It's not about you now that you're forgiven. You become this person of like, I'm the boss, or I'm this person, I'm that. Stop bad mouthing. Stop talking about the person that or the situation that has been brought to you. Stop being on the negative side of things. It's between you and God. It's between you and the person, or between you and the organization, or whatever it is that needs forgiveness. Start speaking blessings. Start praying for the person. Start praying for the situation, as opposed to you just being in this place where you're just wallowing and you're crying and you want everyone to know what you're going through and you want everyone to know how bad, this person is and all that. No, let's be bigger people. Let's be, people of like just peaceful people. Let's be people that understand situations before we condemn. Let's be in a place where we understand what could have led to this. What is the foundation? What is the history? Where's everything coming from? Because if we don't move forward, we're going to find that anybody or any situation, any country, any town, any environment that is unforgiving is very toxic, because forgiveness comes from a place of maturity. Because if you're immature, you're going to be like a little 5-year-old who's upset because you didn't give them candy in the store. And that's how it is. Unforgiveness just makes everyone rattle, everyone uncomfortable. And you need to reach a point to say, how best can we learn as well? How best can I learn? How best can the situation be taken advantage of to the betterment of the person, to the betterment of the community, to the betterment of the nation? Because when you're always harboring unforgiveness, you will not forgive politicians. You will not forgive your employers. You will not forgive, your partners. You will not forgive your relatives. You will not forgive your business partners that have run away with your money. There's so many ways of unforgiveness that we should not play a role in. Let's ask ourselves, what is going to happen? And what is the worst that can happen because you've forgiven someone or you've forgiven a situation? Isn't it that there'll be joy? Isn't it that there'll be, pleasant happiness? Isn't it that it will be so much easier for people to move to the next stage of understanding what it is that everything entails? So get to a place where you start asking yourself, who am I and what does this forgiveness have to do with me? Because if you know that the forgiveness opens up certain doors, that it gives you productiveness, then there's no way you're going to delay in forgiving anyone, anything, or any environment that has treated you a certain negative way. So the topic of forgiveness is never, ever, ever going to be an easy one. And it's so broad that it's not easy to always talk about it in a nutshell. It's not something we can cover, completely in a couple of minutes. But what is key is that once you have done the forgiving, once you have moved on, start to take and accept those steps of just being a positive person, going the extra mile to let these people know that you have forgiven them, so that as you go to approach your Father's throne boldly, you're coming from a place of understanding, a place of peace, knowing that everything will work out good for you. So I hope that today's episode has been very, very helpful to somebody. I would love to hear from you. I love your feedback. Don't forget to get in touch with me on social media. It's Carol Mushota TT on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a lovely time and we'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.